Halguda. Vice Chair Brown. Member Secretary Treasurer Good.
Present.
Member Hughes.
Here.
Member Armstrong.
Here.
Member Knight.
Present.
All members are present. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Please join me in pledging allegiance to the great republic the flag represents. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation
Under God, indivisible.
justice for all. Please handle item 3.
Yes, CYMPO complies with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and related non-discrimination statutes and regulations in all programs and activities. Members of the public may review the CYMPO Title VI plan and submit a self-identification survey by accessing the CYMPO website.
Thank you. Item 4, called public. This item is to provide an opportunity for presentation of comments by the public on subjects not on the agenda. Individuals wishing to address the board need not request permission in advance and are limited to 3 minutes. Also, don't be aware of anyone that wishes to address the board.
No comments at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, consideration of possible action to approve the March 16th, 2022 executive board regular meeting minutes. Mr. Gallegos, do you have anything to add to this?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No move, Mr. Chairman. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 6, executive director update. Mr. Gallegos.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you for having us here in the town of Prescott Valley, Mayor Alberta. We appreciate traveling meetings and the speed enforcement along Glassford Hill on the way here was appreciative of the demonstration of transportation network in your community. So thank you. Announcement number 1 is recorded meetings. We've been doing recorded meetings on YouTube Live and also on Zoom webinar. It's a bit of a technology juggling act. So instead of duplicating our efforts, we're just going to streamline them. We're going to eliminate YouTube Live. Meetings are still fully accessible virtually through the Zoom webinar. So if you have the link, which we put on our agendas, we advertise on the website. The public is more than welcome to attend virtually. So instead of 2 places, there will be just 1 place. So just a note to the general public, this is the last month for YouTube Live TAC meetings and executive board meetings. Announcement number 2, next month at your executive board meeting, we will be presenting the State Route 8989A on-ramps alternative selection report. That plan has just been completed by AECOM. It's been provided, it will be provided tomorrow to the TAC for their final review, and it'll be presented at your next meeting. Essentially, though, this is the evaluation for an additional on-ramp over by the airport on 89A, going eastbound towards Prescott Valley. AECOM has provided some alternatives to improve that on-ramps, basically. So, coming attractions. Announcement number 3, congressionally directed spending. This is the through the office of Senators Kelly and Sinema. Some of the municipalities may have put in for this particular spending request. CYMPO, we put in for 2 things. Number 1 was the State Route 89A design concept report. We requested $450,000. Each senator in their webinar information said they receive about $18 million to spend at their discretion. If you and your staff attended, it covered a very wide range of projects that they're willing to support, anywhere from a police vehicle, fire vehicle, to floodplain information, to plans and studies. So with that said, we thought a very reasonable ask was the design concept report for the widening of 89A from 89 to Glassford. And then we did put in a second request where we felt like we were swinging away, but why not, for that 89A on-ramps that I just told you. One of the scenarios in there is a $5.5 million option to add an additional lane for design and construction. So we did submit both of those requests, and we'll wait to hear back if we were successful or not in both of those. Next announcement is the multimodal project discretionary grant. A couple of you board members have actually sent this to me. I think Mayor Good, you sent this to me, and maybe a few others. So again, these are the federal grants that are coming out of the Federal Highway Administration. Historically, I know they've changed some of the names, but this is now like the mega grant, I'm drawing a blank, the rural mega, and I think infra is their new names. So we are reviewing that. I will say it's a very big production to put in for these particular requests. These are 25 pages with a lot of technical background and data. With that said, they are due at the end of next month. We will continue as a staff to see if there is a project to go after. But I'm sure as all of your staffs are evaluating is, again, our capacity as a staff to be grant writers and be successful in that. So we'll report back. So I appreciate you sharing the information. At this time, though, we have not identified a grant to go after. I will say the rural grant is very tempting, and CYMPO is eligible for that, even though we are in an urbanized and a rural area. So stay tuned for that. Is Ashley here? Let's see Ashley. So I won't introduce Ashley yet, but if Ashley comes, it's the new Prescott Public Works Director. We did extend an invitation to him, and he is scheduled to be here. So when he comes, Mr. Chair, we can introduce him and let him introduce himself. But we do have Anthony here, is that right? Yes. So Anthony, if you want to come on up to the podium, and if you'd introduce yourself, we want to welcome Anthony Brozich, the ADOT Northwest District Administrator. So thank you for being here, and welcome, and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Vidi. Mayor, committee members. Anthony Brozich, you pronounced it correctly. I've been with ADOT for 11 years. I've had 20 plus years construction experience. I just started this role a couple weeks ago, so I'm looking forward to working with everybody on upcoming projects and efforts. Jumping into the deep end, because I know we have a few that are sensitive and moving, so I'm having fun with that. I did have my assistant, Andy, I'm sure you guys know him. He's going to give our update later for me. But I will be here. I do have to split time between here and Mojave County, but pretty much going to be an every other week kind of thing. So very nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Anthony. And then one last announcement, Mr. Chair, members of the board, that I neglected to put on here, just an update on the Sundog Connector Design Concept Report. We had an internal project meeting with the AECOM project team and the CYMPO staff. We are looking to schedule a kickoff meeting with the technical committee the first week of May. At the end of May, we would look to do a stakeholder meeting at which we would invite representatives from various groups throughout the community, such as the Yavapai Hills Homeowners Association, emergency response, other groups in the area, the different planning representations from Prescott Valley, the county, city of Prescott, and technical members. And you as board are more than welcome to attend the stakeholder meeting. And then that's the end of May. And then we'd be doing a community meeting in the summertime after we've been able to gather a lot of the initial data collection and traffic analysis information. So with that said, that's an update on Sundog Connector, and that's my announcements.
Maybe you have a date yet on that.
So the community, the general community meeting is right now, it's tentative for July/August, but we don't have a specific date for that one. But we're looking more towards the August time. All right, so May is the next two meetings. So we'll do a technical kickoff first week of May, and the last week of May, Mayor Good will do a stakeholder meeting. So any other questions or comments?
Moving on, item 7, mobility management transit update. Post.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to begin having transit and mobility management updates on this agenda. I think it's really important to show the support there. So thanks for your interest in it. Last week, Vinny and I attended the ASTA conference in Tucson. Mostly, we just love the resort. It was beautiful. El Conquistador, if you have a chance, you should go stay there. We were really excited because the FTA representatives from our region, Region 9, were there, and they gave us information. They ran several sessions themselves, and that's a treat for us because we don't often get our representatives from FTA. We do see the FHWA all the time, but FTA is a different animal. They're in San Francisco. So Hawaii is clearly their favorite state and not Arizona. So they came to our conference and we were really excited. One session that they ran was about the IIJA updates. And so we're finally starting to get some information down where we can actually share it in a way that's easy to understand for most of us. So I look forward to gathering that information as it comes in a little bit more to show how that's going to impact our transit initiatives here in Yavapai County. So 2 updates that I wanted to share right away were that we were awarded the funds for the active transportation plan from ADOT. That's pedestrian and bike focused. That one was $100,000. And then we have a marketing plan. So that's the regional marketing plan for transit initiatives, and that'll be focused on each community specifically because there are unique parts of transit in each community that all don't share. So this marketing plan will be directed to each community specifically. We're very excited for that one. In Prescott Valley Microtransit, New Horizons Disability Empowerment Center in Prescott Valley was named as the operating provider. They were already on contract with ADOT, so they're very familiar with meeting all of the requirements therein. And then I helped select a vendor for their administrative services, so Title VI and the PTASK safety plan. We selected a vendor for them, and they are off and running and getting those plans already. So the plan is still to implement in August of this year, and so we'll keep the board updated if that changes. We also recently submitted our regional mobility management application with ADOT. There are we get the pass-through funds from ADOT from the FTA. And so we apply for this every 2 years. They're funded 1 year at a time, and for 2 years, if that makes sense. It's always hard to follow that logic, but so we apply for 2 years at a time and they award it 1 year at a time. So $90,000 each year for 2 years is what we applied for, $180,000 total. And so those funds help with our efforts towards mobility management in the area, providing technical assistance to the providers, providing training, and helping them navigate the ADOT grant system. And that will sort of lead me into the next item, but I'll stop there and allow for any questions or comments if there are any.
Sure, is it appropriate this time?
I believe you can.
It's fairly straightforward. So it was recently created, and it's just a way to gain it's a best practice now. So gain the support and interest of our board. So say again.
You want to read the resolution?
I can.
You want to read it after the vote? Just want to make sure.
Well, certainly I should at least put it up on the screen.
While she's pulling up, Mr. Chair, can I have one? So just one other announcement to the mobility management transit update. Our new transit planner resigned due to health reasons. So we wish Kimberly the best. She was with us for a short amount of time, but made a positive impact. So she was expecting a child, but has had a very rough pregnancy and has allowed us to share that publicly. But she did provide her 2-week notice. So we will be looking for a new transit mobility plan. So thank you.
And so you're not being facetious. I'm going to read this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is resolution of the Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization approving an application for United States Department of Transportation grant funds through the Arizona Department of Transportation to administer regional mobility management services in rural Yavapai County. Whereas CYMPO's vision to promote and maintain a regional coordinated transportation system for the safe and efficient movement of people, goods, and services And whereas CYMPO is the designated agency responsible for administering transportation planning in central Yavapai County. And whereas strengthening transportation systems supports the development of the region's economic vitality, improves safety, accessibility, and mobility of people and freight, protects the environment, promotes energy conservation, and stimulates economic and community development. And whereas mobility management is an eligible activity in the FTA Section 5310 grant program to enhance the availability of and accessibility of transportation options for various populations. And whereas NACOG, Northern Arizona Coordinated, whereas the Northern Arizona Coordinated Mobility Plan and the Yavapai Passenger Transportation Study identifies mobility management as a means to ensure the availability of technical assistance and training opportunities benefiting multiple stakeholders, develops strategies to leverage funding, facilitates innovative partnerships to address service gaps, prioritizes investments, and coordinates operations and administrative services amongst partners to minimize duplication. And I will note that it was NACOG who does manage our coordinated plan, which is why I snuck that in there. And now therefore be it
Can't do that. Can't insert something into it. And look to approve this for the second. It has to be read verbally. Want to make a change, make it in the end. But not now.
Gotcha. So what do I do now?
We could just, if you'd like to just withdraw your motion, make another motion in regards to what is read by Ms. Couch. So let's go. Exactly. Ms. Couch is continuing.
Oh, I misposed for the record. Mr. Couch.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
No problem.
Just finish reading.
Okay.
Just start reading about that.
Sure. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization supports an application to be made to the state of Arizona for funding from the Federal Transit Administration and authorizes Vincent Gallegos, Executive Director, to sign application and contract for or grant documents for receipt and use of these funds, and authorizes staff to take all actions necessary to implement and complete activities submitted in said applications. And that the Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization will comply with all grant program guidelines, state and federal statutes and regulations applicable to the Federal Transit Administration and the certificates contained in the application.
So this time I'll take a motion to accept the resolution as read. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
Moving on to item 9, rural transportation tax council update. Mr. Adams,
Good question. He was actually supposed to be here in person. I just texted him. Let's see if he's virtually with us. Hold on, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I don't see him signed in at all. He did say he was going to attend in person, but
we can just circle back there. That's fine. We'll skip to item 10, presentation of possible action to approve the final adaptive signal control technology assessment need method and implementation. Mr. Gallegos, will you comment on this?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board. So actually, we're going to make a small adjustment with this presentation. There is a conflict with our consultant to provide the regional adaptive signal control technology, or ASC, what is it, ASCT assessment. She is unable to join us right now. She will come next month to give you a presentation, but we're going to go a little bit out of order because some of your respective public works folks are here to give an update on what is coming out of the plan as far as implementation goes. So in just a moment, I'm going to invite representatives from the town of Prescott Valley, Norm Davis, City of Prescott, Ian Mattingly, and then ADOT from Andy Roth. Just a reminder, this study was done to evaluate the traffic signals along 3 major corridors. Willow Creek Road corridor in the city of Prescott, Glassford in the town of Prescott Valley, and State Route 69, essentially from Prescott up through Prescott Valley. This included 58 traffic signals to evaluate. This was out of our regional transportation plan as a priority in that to look at another way of moving the flow of traffic with safety and capacity, to have technology evaluated. For the last year, we have been conducting this study of those corridors. Again, the consultant from Burgess and Nyepel, Dana Biscuit, will be at your meeting next month to really give you the complete presentation. But what I'd like to do is actually invite the representatives from those communities, just to give you a little bit as to what implementation is taking place. And Lindsay, our first one up that you have on the slide is.
Let's find out together.
Okay. So this is State Route 69 between 89 and Fane Road. So this was, we won't read all these traffic signals, but this was 24 traffic signals on the State Route 69 corridor. With that said, I'd like to invite Andy Roth up to share with you the activities that are taking place along this corridor, specifically as it pertains to the traffic signals, technology, possible upgrades, and again, we're hopefully some of the information that we've been working on over the last year has helped. Andy?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Yes, the State Route 69 traffic signals, actually it was 23 signals. Mendocino is a future signal. So yes, it's a 24th location, but it's a 23rd, it's only 23 signals right now. So started at Gurley Street in Sheldon at that signal, down to Fane Road. So over that 13 miles, basically the 23 signals in there. Unfortunately, they're not all evenly spaced. So that creates kind of a problem out there for us. But all of the signals, with the exception of the Gurley Street Sheldon signal, the Enterprise Parkway signal, and the Fane Road signal, are already connected into our central management system. The coordination plan that we had on those signals was updated only 2 to 3 years ago. All of the signals right now have radar detection, and it includes the advanced detection. So not just at the stop bar, but in advance of the signal, the radar actually detects the signals as they're advancing to the signals. All of the signals in that signal cabinets in that corridor are currently up to the current standards for technology. All of the signals are traffic actuated, and they're used as a time of day plan. So the plans are actually programmed into those cabinets right now. The timing favors northbound traffic in the morning, southbound traffic in the afternoon, following the cues that we have out there. The traffic right now is predictable enough and consistent that the day-to-day and the current time of day plans operate at acceptable levels of service for us. Any adjustments for short-term conditions can actually be implemented by our techs remotely. And right now, the benefits for the adjustments by an adaptive signal controller technology really would be minor to the cost that it would take to implement that technology right now. And any questions? They do work. One of the main problems with that is the side friction that comes from the crossroads, because they're not even. When you get a large queue such as what comes at Glassford Hill Road, and you have some of the smaller signals like out in Diamond Valley, the Diamond Drive signals that don't have a lot of friction, it does mess up those programming, and it takes a few cycles before the programming's come back into coordination. But for the most part, if you do drive the speed limit, you will progress through the signals correctly. In theory. But it does. But it. So. So yes, you can notice differences out there on those, and basically it's all due to the side friction that comes into those signals. Welcome.
The amount of traffic starts to back up larger intersections. Other vehicles being able to see at the speed limit.
It does.
So that impacts the ability of have traffic flow be efficient.
Yes.
So tell me what the friction on the
It's the demand. It's really the demand of each of the signals because they're unbalanced. If the side road demands were actually even and we had even spacing between the signals, coordination plans would work a lot better. But we have, it's a combination of factors that makes that corridor very difficult. Yes, they do. Correct.
So there's a lot more cars turning, just for layman's terms, so I'm dummy. So like the more cars that turn red on Glassford Hill and head westbound, that creates a ripple effect as opposed to not as many cars turning westbound
From Diamond Valley, correct. So most of those signals will stay green on the main line longer because there's not the demand coming to the signal from that side road.
But then the system can adjust to it.
But the signal system does adjust to that. Yes. It does take a few cycles though for that, once the queue does come out of there, for that coordination to come back into sync again though. So it's not automatic. It takes a little while. Yeah. Yeah.
Unless another vehicle comes in from the side.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Andy. All right, Lindsay, next up on the slide, we got a 50-50 shot. It's either Prescott Valley or Prescott. Looks like it's Prescott Valley. So 10 signals on Glassford Hill Road between State Route 69 and 89A. So here we have Norm Davis, Public Works Director for the town of Prescott Valley, to talk with us about what's coming out of the traffic signal study and implementation. Norm?
Mr. Chairman, Executive Board, yes, Glassford Hill Road is with the town of Prescott Valley limits. So I know quite a bit about Glassford Hill Road. We have some different advantage about this corridor because it's basically newer than some of the older corridors. So what you're seeing, this is an internal exhibit that we had several years ago when we did a safety study, but I like this one that shows each of the 8 signals that we have between Highway 69 to the south and 89A to the north. So the 8 signals that we operate and maintain, and then each signal at each end, ADOT operates and maintains for a total of 10. The first part of the study did look at the existing equipment. We found that our equipment, we do make investments every budget year into our existing signals. So we found some of the old controllers are called 170s. We upgraded to the Cobalt controllers, the latest technology and what everyone's using. In addition, we've upgraded to what's called GPS clocks. So each individual cabinet has a little device in there that sets itself to the satellite. So everything's wireless. And so that way we were pretty well up to date. So what we found was we were in great shape for what we have for the ability of existing equipment to get ultimately what you want is a coordination. So when we met with the consultant, they said, you know, you've got very predictable traffic. We don't see any real cost benefit for the adaptive signals, that investment. So what they recommended was we can just do a new timing study. So we paid $5,000 outside the study and we looked at turning movements, each one of the individual intersections, to where we really studied each individual intersection and coordination we talked about when Andy talked about that side friction. So we were able to get with the consultant and they actually changed some of the scope of work to accommodate the coordination plan for Glassford. So when that was done, we're very proud to say in Prescott Valley, that coordination plan was put in place in December of 21, and it's working very, very well to get that coordinated timing throughout. So we're actually able to implement. Study was a great success for us and met what the original scope was to get that platooning of traffic throughout Glassford. And it's been 6 months now, and we've heard no feedback, which is good feedback, that it's working very well. So we talk about, you know, the big thing that we talk about is the coordination. It does adjust itself at times during the day, like when school lets out at Longwood, but we found great success and we are really appreciative for this particular study. So great success for Prescott Valley and it's implemented this time. Any questions?
Actually, Mr. Davis, I just want to mention that prior to even coming over here, I just opened a letter on my desk and someone was complimenting how Glassford Hill was flowing and how things are. So people, the citizens are noticing.
Well, it is testament. Every study you can always get a little better. This one I think paid big dividends with. We were able to look at that, and so I think the residents noticed was what we want. It was one of our big priorities of our regional transportation plan, and we've delivered that. So thank you for the compliment.
Mr. Chairman, the amount of law enforcement present last day driving here, I counted 5 motor officers.
Mr. Chair, if I could have a comment.
I'd like to address Mr. Brown's comment. That's a speed detail that we are implementing on Glassford Hill. I believe the city of Prescott had one on Iron Springs just recently. And we had 30 stops with 62 tickets for citations.
Since the first of the year, we've issued 764 violations for speeding and reckless driving. We've done it every single week in most of our major arterials. So just like your works here on Glassford Hill Road, I think the more visible enforcement, the more likely that the motorists will follow the rules and follow the speed limit. And then we'll have safe and efficient movement through our major roads.
I agree with you. I believe the vice chair might just have a heavy foot. Be worried about it. Mr. Davis?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to acknowledge, we did change the scope, as Norm referenced, and we're pleased that the consultant worked with us. We were able to make the financial adjustment to do a little bit different, as Norm referenced, for the traffic signal timing plan. And anyway, just wanted to really acknowledge that we were able to do that, and it did result in a very positive thing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's supposed to you hold on.
Sure.
We have a comment.
Hi, Ian Project.
Up to the microphone, sir.
I'm sorry.
You can go to the microphone.
Dan Pridgick, present resident of Prescott Valley, moving to Prescott in a few months. But I want to mention on Glassford Hill, the speed camera that shows the speed on it. It has the normal police car lights that light up above it. That seems to be very effective at getting people to slow down if they happen to be going a little bit faster than they may have planned. Just.
All right, then, Mr. Chair, and last but not least, the city of Prescott, we have 23 traffic signals that CYMPO evaluated along the Willow Creek corridor and the Miller Valley Road between Deep Well Ranch Roundabout. We've listed all the intersections, and here to give you an implementation update from the study is Ian Mattingly. Ian?
Yep. Good afternoon. Yeah, so very similar to Prescott Valley. When the study was underway, it became apparent pretty quickly that the city of Prescott, while we have our challenges on Willow Creek Road, we have pretty traditional kind of peak hour traffic. So the adaptive element was not going to really benefit us a lot. What we did get from the study was obviously an in-depth look at our existing equipment. Unlike Prescott Valley, who has newer facilities, we don't benefit from a lot of that. And so our systems have been in place varying amounts of time, which leads us to having more hardware needs. So what we found was, apart from ADOT and Prescott Valley, the study identified quite a bit of need for upgrades. We had basically detection. It was primarily in ground, not on all approaches of the intersection. That makes it very difficult for you to then coordinate and make these kind of coordinated systems work very well. We also had, relatively newer controllers, but not the most up to date. And then we were lacking in a lot of communication. While we did have some interconnection abilities, they weren't tied together fully. And so they weren't communicating, primarily operating, lone. And you could tell when you came through some of our more congested areas, the Fry's area in the north, you could really see that and feel that. So what we did is we took the results of the study and basically undertook an aggressive program to purchase and install the needed upgrades. This is a process that's been ongoing. We've approached council, I think about 4 or 5 times for various equipments, communication, detection, and controllers. To date, we've bought 17. We've bought more than this, but these are the ones that are dedicated to this corridor. 17 Cobalt controllers to upgrade. We've bought radio communication systems for the entire corridor, including to relay that information back to the Public Works yard, so we can have a central computer system to kind of monitor that and control it once it's implemented. And then we've purchased 19 video or radar detection systems. We had about 4 intersections that were already upgraded because of development. They were newer. And so we bought all the equipment, basically, we have it all in place. We've either installed it or it's currently being installed. Once those are in place, it's our goal to implement a time of day program that would kind of similar to the goal, which is move the heaviest, movement of traffic during that peak hour, AM, PM, and a midday. What we found in Prescott is that probably because of our demographic, we do have a defined AM and PM peak, but we kind of have a midday, just kind of very busy time once you get a certain time of day to the afternoon. And I call that our midday peak, but we have to address midday as well. We've already implemented a 7 signal system from these upgrades. That's from, it's by the Prescott Honda Tractor Supply down to Smoke Tree. So those are already communicating with each other and running this time of day system. We will then expand that as we add these additional hardware. We got the signal timing plans that we're currently using from the study. While we didn't contract specifically beyond what they provided us, the study did include a look at all our existing signal timing. And then they created an optimized timing plan that had like one common cycle time. I think it's like 110 seconds for the whole corridor. And so we're refining that and using that to basically put that in at every single intersection and then tie all those together. Once ours is done, it will be communicating through radio. So we're not doing GPS time clocks like Prescott Valley specifically, but they will be communicating and keeping time together. And so we hope to see quite a bit of improvement. If you are out on the 7 signal system, you will see differences. You might experience a little bit more delay than you were used to before on some of the side streets, but primarily during peak hour, and it's moving much better. We used to have heavy AM delays in there, if you're familiar, when you come down through the Fry's area, and it's substantially better. So that's what the city of Prescott is doing and will continue to do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and I know that I have supported this effort from the very beginning. And I think it's starting to show some significant results, especially that Willow Creek and Willow Lake Road intersection there isn't nearly as almost gridlocked as it was before. So I think as we continue to expand the interconnectivity and communication from the detection and then into the changing of the signal cycles, it's only going to get better. So as long as we can show the public at large that they stay to the speed limit, they're going to have a very safe and efficient transit, and it doesn't pay to speed and then have somebody else catch up with you at the intersection and go, yeah, that worked out pretty well, didn't it? So thank you for that effort, Ian.
Thank you.
It's working. Thanks.
Anything else?
Mr. Chair, so just to wrap up this item, so again, this is a $200,000 study that CYMPO took place over the last year. You're hearing some of the implementation. Again, next month, the consultant will present the final program to you that we have. So happy to take any questions or comments.
Second. All in favor, say aye. 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 All opposed? Switching lanes a little bit, we're going to jump back to item 6. Mr. Gallegos would like to introduce Mr. Couch.
Yes, I would. We'd like to introduce and go ahead and bring up Ashley Couch. He is the new City of Prescott Public Works Director. Ashley, would like to welcome you and give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the CYMPO Executive Board. So welcome, Ashley.
Thank you very much. I apologize for being a few minutes late to your meeting. But anyway, my name's Ashley Couch. I'm the new Public Works Director for the City of Prescott. I've been there about 3 weeks now, and it's been a great start, a great reception, and seems like a fantastic organization. But I look forward to working with CYMPO, both the Technical Advisory Committee as well as its Executive Board. Going forward, if ever you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. And we certainly believe in a partnership that's very strong and collaborative with CYMPO. And so if there's anything City of Prescott or I personally can do, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to working with each of you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much, and look forward to working.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Thanks, Ash.
All right, back to item 9, it's all over the place right now. Mr. Adam, would you like to give us a little transportation advocacy council update?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Extremely busy morning at the Capitol. We actually had some budget bills move through the House Appropriations Committee. I don't think that it's the direction that they will ultimately go, but it does signal some activity. Clearly, the focus is more and more on the budget, and that is always the last remaining item that they have to resolve before they adjourn. So basically, what is occurring is typically the easiest, simplest way to pass a budget is to obviously you need a majority of votes, 31 in the House, 16 in the Senate. The easiest way to accomplish that is to attempt to work within the majority party to, within that caucus, try to keep it within that caucus to cobble those votes together. But our legislature is so evenly divided on a partisan level. Right now, those majority margins are only 31 to 29 and 16 to 14, which basically means that in order to keep it within the majority caucus, you can't lose a single vote. Every single member has to be on board in order to make that process work. In fact, you can't even have somebody absent. All 31 and all 16 have to be there and vote. So that is the situation that we are in. And basically that sort of, in a sense, gives every single member in the majority party veto authority. You know, if they hold out, no budget. And basically, I think because the margins have been so slim now for a couple of years, I think a lot of the members have sort of caught on to that and have become more and more adept at using that threat of holding out for leverage, that it's becoming increasingly difficult to pass something through. And so what occurred today was that House leadership decided that, you know what, we'll just run a skinny budget. And basically what that means is they'll take the budget numbers from the current fiscal year, make the necessary funding adjustments to the existing programs that are required by formula, you know, things like population growth, and then just leave it at that. And of course, we've got right now, it's estimated that we will have an operating balance of over $5 billion to work with this year. And what that skinny budget does is provide, I think the numbers came out to just a 600 million increase over the current year, which is leaves quite a balance, you know, that 5 billion to the 600 million. And so I think they've done that to basically sort of, you know, threaten these holdouts that, you know what, if you continue to not cooperate and push too hard, the you know, end result is you're not going to get anything. And so it remains to be seen just how effective that strategy will work and if this gets us any closer to the finishing line. But from a transportation perspective, this is something that we are watching very closely because, you know, that 5 billion balance that I mentioned, about 3 billion of that they're estimating is sort of one-time in nature. And there've been a lot of really interesting developments because of all of the reactions to COVID at the federal and state level that have really helped create this very unique revenue balance situation that we have. And so And of course, with that 3 billion that they believe is available in one-time funding, there is very strong support in both the House and the Senate, and also among Republicans and Democrats, to direct much of that one-time funding to transportation. And so, I think we've been very proactive in coming up with a list of rural priorities from across the state. I think everybody's probably aware that we ran into a roadblock, and that 90% of the projects that were in our bill are local. And we had the House Appropriations Chair indicate that she thought only state projects belonged in the state budget. So we quickly altered direction and developed a list of state highway projects across greater Arizona that met her criteria. And so that has continued to advance over on the House side. Yet on the Senate, President Fan has indicated that she liked our original bill and she liked those local projects. So we are in a situation where I think it's very much a positive that everybody has this on the table, both the House and the Senate. It'd be a little bit more ideal if everybody was on the same page, because we do have to have some sort of resolution that will probably occur at the leadership level as far as whether or not local projects will be included. And of course, the CYMPO region, I think, is represented very well in both of those lists. So bottom line is there's a historical level of revenue that's available this year. And I think we've done a really good job of demonstrating the need and the demand that's out there for the infrastructure. So hopefully we will have maximized the level of funding that they decide to direct to highway and road projects across the state. And we're hopeful. And I think that President Fan, Vinny, was at the meeting, and I think she was very adamant in her support for that list of local projects. And it sounded like she was going to stay pretty firm on that as leadership continues to work out details. And so hopefully those budget talks will expand beyond a skinny budget. And we will have some priorities addressed across the state, including these projects. And they need to have that budget. Pat, we're right at about 100 days now in session, which is what you always hear. That's the target. They rarely ever meet that. But July 1st is sort of that drop deadline where they have to have that budget in place before the next state fiscal year. And it's really hard to gauge the progress and how close they are to coming to completion. But I'm guessing it will probably be closer to July 1st than today. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. That SRA 989A on-ramp $5.5 million project that obviously I've been advocating for a couple of years now, having it included on the congressional directed spending proposal, would that reduce its likelihood to be funded statewide when they might say, well, that's going to get funded by the Congress, so we don't have to fund it here?
I think the timing is fine. I think that there's no guarantees. We don't know what's going to happen with the federal earmarks. You're probably at least, I want to say at least 10 to 12 months out from the next federal appropriations bill being enacted, could be longer. So I think with the uncertainty, I don't know that will get much consideration, if any, by the state legislature this session.
So we taken this project off of our ask by the state because it's now on the congressional?
No, sir. No, we have not. In fact, CYMPO, compared to most of the other regions in the state, they're in fairly good shape with our list because, I mentioned that, our bill, 90% of the projects were local. CYMPO was the big exception. You had 2 of your 3 projects, including that one, were on that original list. We included it in that alternative list of state projects, but at higher funding levels. And so you're basically on both lists. And I don't foresee that changing. And of course, with the clout of your delegation, I think you're in pretty good shape.
Better be on 2 lists than no list.
Absolutely. Or actually 3 with the federal, right? Yeah.
Good luck with that one. Federal government, I'm here to help.
Anything else from Mr. Adam?
What do we got both?
Mr. Chair, it's Gary Knight.
Mr. Knight, go ahead.
Kevin, has the governor weighed in at all? Because I'm sure he's not happy with all of this. He's got some things that he wants to see in the budget. Has he weighed in at with the legislature as to what he wants to see in the budget before he'll even approve it?
Gary, he has, and he's given them the very clear message that if his priorities that he laid out in his budget proposal in January aren't included, he's not going to support it. And of course, that includes $1 billion, although it would be spread out over 3 years to form the new water authority and prioritize water development across the state. That included $400 million for the expansion of I-10 between Phoenix and Tucson, and the new SMART Fund, which would provide assistance to Greater Arizona for federal grant applications. And so, yeah, he's made it very clear that if his priorities aren't in there, he's not going to support it.
How about his flat tax?
That would be included. Yeah, if what he laid out in his budget proposal isn't included, he's going to be opposed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I guess 2 comments. One, to acknowledge again Kevin's advocacy when we met with President Fan. The conversation did come up. She had a note that Greater Arizona was receiving about $450 million tentatively. A major chunk of that again was the I-10 project that Kevin just mentioned. And I know Kevin and I were walking a minefield, but to Kevin's credit, attempted to explain that I-10 widening, while it is technically in Greater Arizona, again, who's the benefactors between Phoenix and Tucson? And, the meeting, it was really presented in a way that we in Greater Arizona, we're all going to benefit from that $400 million widening, so don't ask for more, basically. So I just want to acknowledge Kevin's attempt to help Senator Fan better understand our needs in Greater Arizona. And then comment number 2, Mr. Chair. I did speak with Representative Wynn a couple of times yesterday. Again, to Kevin's point, there is some real efforts on our region's behalf. So I don't want to give too many specifics because they're still negotiating. But again, the list that we've provided, it is under serious consideration, I think is a fair statement. So I just wanted to add that at this point.
All right, thank you, Mr. Adam.
Okay, thank you.
And then item 11, updated draft applications for the fiscal year 25-26 highway safety improvement program.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Highway Safety Improvement Program. You've heard many grants referenced today. This is another competitive opportunity for us to be able to pursue safety funds. Historically, many years ago, CYMPO used to receive these funds directly. ADOT decided several years ago to switch it to, instead of giving each region the funds, to make it competitive statewide. So we are now pursuing the grants for safety improvements. In order to compete in the best possible position, we did bring on a consultant, Greenlight Traffic Engineering. The project manager, his name is Mike Blankenship. He's going to be presenting the 4 projects that CYMPO has identified. And to be clear, what CYMPO's role in this is, we're doing the analysis now. We're doing the 5-year crash data analysis. We're working with your technical representation to identify the projects. We are going to prepare the application on behalf of each of the municipalities. But in the end, these become your projects. So as an example, the Lakeshore project for the town of Prescott Valley, we will do everything up to the final submittal of the application. And then Mayor Palguda, Norm Davis, and staff will submit this to ADOT. And if awarded, it becomes your project, your responsibility. And that applies to each of these projects. We have one Prescott Valley, one ADOT, one Yavapai County, one City of Prescott project. Mike will tell me in a minute, but I want to say we're asking for about $2 million, of which most of it is 100% funded. Though that which is not 100% funded is funded, I believe, at a 95% federal contribution. So with that introduction, I'd like to introduce Mike Blankenship. He will introduce himself, will briefly let you know about these projects. Again, the TAC has been involved for the last 6 months in the process. We are now at the stage of submitting a draft application to ADOT for their review. And if that looks positive, then it will come back for a final application through your organization. So Mike, hopefully you can hear us and you can take it from there.
Thanks, Vinny. Yeah, actually, these 4 projects total up to just under 4 million in requests from ADOT for the federal safety funds. If awarded, you'll find out by the end of the year, ADOT will rank all the projects that they receive applications for and then send letters out by the end of the year. And the money is for fiscal years 25 and 26. So we're still a few years away from you actually being able to do anything with these projects. But the projects are based on where the region is having fatal and serious injury crashes. Those are the only 2 levels of crash severity that ADOT allows in these applications. So we really hone in on where you're having fatal crashes in the region. And that's how we came up with these 4 projects. Well, we had an initial list and we went over them with the member agencies there in CYMPO and narrowed it down to these 4. So the first one there is in Prescott Valley, a Lakeshore Drive, about a mile stretch. There were a couple of fatal crashes there. So we're proposing widening, putting in some paved shoulders with some pavement markings out there. That project is coming in, the cost estimate right around $600,000, which would include about a $34,000 match from the town. The second one on the list, an ADOT project on State Route 69 in Prescott, basically in the general area of the Costco there. And it would involve a couple of things: extending the eastbound acceleration lane that ends right now just east of the Costco driveway, extending that several hundred feet beyond where it currently ends, so that you keep 3 eastbound lanes for a little bit longer. And it would also include a couple of segments of raised median in that general area. That project cost estimate is coming in at about $1.3 million. The third one on the list, Yavapai County project, adding a northbound left turn lane on Williamson Valley Road at Stasinski Road intersection. And that cost estimate right now is around $850,000 with about a $48,000 local match. And we are taking a little closer look at that one. The cost estimate may change just a little bit on that one. And then the fourth one there would be with the City of Prescott, installing a traffic signal at the intersection of Gail Gardner and Fair Street. The current cost estimate is just over $1 million for that project. And that would be fully 100% federally funded with no local match. That's kind of the quickie overview of the 4 projects. We would entertain any questions or comments.
Or we have anything, Mr. Blankenship? Any of us want to add anything?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mike, for bringing us up to date. And thank you for correcting me. It's almost $4 million. Again, as you can hear, though, a really minor amount of local contributions for the greater return on the investment. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and submit these draft applications to ADOT. They will review them, mark them up. Mike has helped the last many years of these safety projects, been very successful. He will correct whatever note they make. And then again, he will turn it over to each of these local government agencies, and it'll be your application to submit and then hopefully be awarded. With that said, I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
I have a question. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Vinny, should these federally funded projects get funded, what is the timeline for design and completion? Do we have a specific number of months or years to do that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mayor Good. So right now, if awarded, you would be receiving the monies for fiscal year 2025 to design the project. And then the construction or implementation of it will be in the year 2026. So that's how they break down the funding for this particular project. So your traffic signal would be designed in 25 and constructed in 26.
Anything else, board? Thank you. Moving on to 12, review discussion of possible action to approve amendment of the fiscal year 22-23 Unified Planning Work Program. Mr. Akers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm going to ask Allison for her help. On these next two items, they're going to be very closely tied together. We'll take them one item at a time, but there is a lot of overlap. The first one is in this,
Members Knight and Armstrong, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
sorry about that. We got locked out for a minute, so we're back.
Okay, sorry about that. So this page is a snapshot of essentially everything we're trying to do with this amendment. Administrative amendments include updating our transportation planner to Lindsay Post, cleaning up some language on page 11, and then the bulk of it is financials. So number one, through an audit that ADOT performed for fiscal years 15 through 18, $16,000 of PL funding was identified that we are able to use and program. So that's available to us as of now. Number two, as Vinny mentioned earlier, there's some costs or some project savings from our ASTT project, around $36,000 STBG funds. Again, those funds are available for us to reprogram. Number three, we have $83,000 of general carry forward funding from residual budget savings over the years that we're looking to reprogram. The bulk of this is STBG funding with a small portion PL funding. Number four, in working with ADOT Finance, we were able to take some old HSIP funds that were sitting on our ADOT ledger and move those over to PL funds, which are much easier for us to use. So we have some more money there to program. And then lastly, number five, Again, working with ADOT Finance, we have some flexibility to be able to move around, excuse me, the funds that we use. So we're looking to deobligate $34,000, excuse me, SPR funds, which have a high match rate of 20%, and reobligate $34,000 of STBG funds with a lower match rate of 5.7% for the purpose of match savings of an estimated $6,000. So that's just a swap there. And then in the orange table below, this is how we're proposing to reprogram these funds. So we're looking to take $24,000 of the available funds and move that to admin and operating for the budget items listed here. And then we have the remaining $114,000 STBG funds, which I believe Vinny would like to address with you.
Thank you, Allison. So that last item, item number 214,000, we're placing it in the category right now of to be determined. What I intend on doing after I gather more information is coming back to the technical committee and you as a board and making a proposal that we use a portion of that money to help us evaluate our priority projects as it would relate to competitiveness about the grants that are coming out. As I mentioned earlier, Mayor Good and others shared with me these federal grants that are coming out, and we are needing to scramble quickly within a month or two and evaluate, do we have a project that is competitive, number one, then do we have the capacity to compete at that grant level? So what I'm looking at is what will it do to evaluate our projects? Most likely, clearly, we're not going to hit the window this year, but what can we do for a year from now? Can we identify 1 to 3 projects, maybe a minor and a major project, and put CYMPO in a position to prioritize those specific projects and then identify the grant that's needed for it, the competitive grant, and then apply for it. So for now, we just want to place these funds that Allison outlined into the to be determined category. So with that said, Allison and I are happy to answer any questions or comments.
There's no questions or comments on item 12. If you want to
Motion to approve the minutes to the 2022-2023 CYMPO Unified Planning Work Program. Discuss changes.
Can I second? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Moving on, item 13, is there anything to add to this item, Mr. Graves?
Item number 13, yeah, let's have Allison, and again, my apologies, there is overlap, but they are 2 different technical documents or financial documents. So Allison, again, if you can walk us through, she's summarized them, even though it looks like an intimidating page, she has summarized them to the best of her ability. So Allison.
Yes, the page in front of you lists all of the moves that we are making to the federal and state funded page of our TIP. So again, number 1A and 1B basically mirror what we just discussed with the work program amendment. Items 1C through 1F indicate a swapping of funds that we're looking to do to allow for our most flexible funding source to be programmed for our planning projects in future fiscal years. So we're swapping SPR funds for STBG funds between admin and operating and our planning projects. Number 2 is the to be determined. We've set a placeholder here for that $114,000 that Vinny just discussed. And items 3 through 5 basically mirror items 1C through 1F. Moving on to our transit page, we're making some updates here to reflect the awards that CYMPO has recently received for the active transportation plan and transit marketing plan. Also making some modifications and updating this page to reflect actual awards, FTA awards awarded to agencies within the CYMPO boundary. This is a requirement of us as an MPO to reflect these awards within our boundary. So anything in yellow is being changed, anything in red is being deleted. Then this is our STBG projects page showing past and future projects. And just noting the budget change for our adaptive signal control technology project and the cost savings there. And then we did break out the portion of that cost that was assigned to the Glassford Hill signal retiming done in Prescott Valley. This is the last page. This is the RTAC funding, the two different scenarios that are currently on the table.
And just to add to that, again, you've seen this before, but we did create the scenario B. We didn't have that in our tip before. We have been working with scenario A, which was the $3,850,000. That was the original ask. As Kevin mentioned earlier, the new revised list we have put in here, which is $36 million of just state-related projects. So that's what's illustrated on this page. Thank you very much. That's Mr. Chair, happy to take questions or comments.
Laura, can I get a motion, please?
We'll make the motion to approve amendment of the fiscal year 2022-2026 CYMPO Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program as presented.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Moving on to item 14, ADOT Northwest District Report. Sorry, who will be handling this one?
This will be Andy. Sorry about that. Yes, Andy.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board again. So for the district updates, one of the, I think one of the important ones to bring up right now is that our 2023 through 2027 tentative 5-year construction program is now out on the our website for review and comment by the public. And so if you go to our website to do that, then you can get in there, and there's multiple ways of making comments on that, including a public hearing on May 20th. So then all of the details will be on that, should be on that website for everybody to get into. Projects in construction next week, starting hopefully the Crook Fire will cooperate with us, but on State Route 89 in the Spars, from basically from Will Hoyt up to milepost 307, which is Ponderosa Road. They'll be doing a microsurface project over the next 3 weeks, Monday through Thursday during the daytime. Traffic alert should have just gone out today on that one, but up to 30-minute delays out there. It will be pilot car, so 1 lane with alternating traffic with the pilot car out there. On I-17, the Anthem Way to McGuireville Rest Area broadband project. Currently, the crews are working on southbound between State Route 169 and Cordis Junction, and they should be out there installing that conduit for the next 3 weeks in that portion. After that, they'll keep moving north, and then hopefully by the end of this year, we'll actually get the fiber put into those conduits as well. So some supply issues right now from the contractors on those fibers as well. On State Route 69, Big Bug Ford to Pullen Junction. Really the narrow this down, it's actually in Mare about Onyx Drive up to Main Street in Dewey Humboldt, a ARSC replacement and spot repair project. The partnering pre-con will be next week for that job, and then hopefully that's starting with that. After that, we should be starting that project. It will be a night job, so they'll probably be waiting a little bit to start that project because we do not have temperatures at night for the ARFCFC yet. And then on State Route 89 from Glassford Hill Road to Coyote Springs Road, the project was awarded for that ARACFC replacement and spot repair project as well. Waiting to schedule a partnering pre-con with the contractor on that, and time for that project actually starts on May 18th. So, and again, that'll be a night project as well. So we'll hopefully I would expect late May to June before we actually see temperatures out there for that ACFC replacement. For projects in design, the I-17 Sunset Point Rest Area project, that's a rehab project. Bid opening is on the 22nd, actually this Friday. That's a 210 calendar day job. The rest area will be shut down for that whole time frame. It'll be only open for truck parking during that time. So then there will be facilities available for the truck drivers out there, porta johns and such for that. But for the general public, that will be shut down when that actually starts, after that starts construction. On State Route 89A, from State Route 89 up to milepost 322, which is Glassford Hill Road, another ARACFC replacement project and spot repair. Bid opening on that one is May 20th. On State Route 69, Truewood to Stone Ridge Drive, 3-inch mill and replace, and hopefully we're looking at a bid in the second quarter of fiscal year 23 for that project. On State Route 69, Prescott Lakes Parkway to Frontier Village, the widening for the 3rd lane in each direction. Still looking at second quarter of fiscal year 23 for bid advertisement on that project. On I-17, the State Route 169 TI underpass deck replacement. Looking at a fiscal year 23 second quarter for a bid advertisement on that project. And then finally on State Route 89 from milepost 339 to 363, which is just north of Bramble intersection in Paulden, up to Ash Fork, a centerline rumble strip job to hopefully mitigate some of the crossover head-ons that we've had out there on that. Unknown quarter right now in fiscal year 23 right now. So, and then one other update I do have, the I-17 Flex Lane project. We are having a public meeting on April 26th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the Cannon Elementary School in Black Canyon City. And that's what I have. Thank you. Not at this time. No, I do not.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Item 15, Mr. Knight, you're up. Gary, can you hear us?
Yes.
You're up, sir.
State Transportation Board has met twice now since the last CYMPO meeting. On the 18th of March, we approved SR 69 from milepost 271.46 to milepost 279.1, pavement preservation mill and replace. That's Cordes Junction to Prescott Highway. It was awarded to Asphalt Paving and Supply, which is a company out of Prescott Valley, for 2.7 mil and approximately 100 working days for completion. On the 15th of this month, we had a couple of projects that we approved. Cornville Road between Tissaw and Beaverhead Flat Road, install rumble strips and widen shoulders. It's a new project that we approved for $3,468,000. It's got a $198,000 Yavapai County match. The project will be delivered in FY23. We awarded another project, Prescott Ash Fork Highways SR 89A, Glassford Hill Road, Coyote Spring Road, milepost 322.43 to 324.85, pavement preservation, milling and replacing, allowed 85 working days. That also went to Asphalt Paving and Supply of Prescott Valley. It came in pleasantly underbid. It was very competitive. There were 4 bidders and they were all underbid, but Asphalt Paving and Supply got it. for $818,458.80. And the state's estimate was just a little over, just over $1 million. So it came in pleasantly under bid for a change. The next State Transportation Board meeting will be on the 20th. It'll be right after our scheduled meeting on the 18th. It's going to be at Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian Community. It'll be a hybrid meeting. You can attend virtually or in person. It will be the only meeting that we have, the only public hearing that we have on the 5-year plan. We're just having one this year. That's all that's required, and it will be the May meeting. So if you want to attend that one, you can do so, as I say, either virtually or in person. I don't have any other information on the exact location other than Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian Community. That'll show up on the Transportation Board's website when we get more information. So with that, I'll take any questions there might be.
Board, we make this tonight. Very nice, nicely done. Mr. Agnes, you have anything to add? Moving on to item 16, make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So we're done, folks. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Cal, for the hospitality.